Hello students, welcome to All Force e-learning. This is K. Nageshwar Rao, your physics faculty. Today I am here to deal with session number 82. In the previous sessions, we have dealt with electrostatics, and today I am going to start one new chapter, current electricity. Let me tell you how this chapter is different from previous discussion. In electrostatics, whether it is capacitance or potential or electric charges and fields, in these three areas, we have dealt with phenomena, effects shown by charges which are at rest position. Whether it is a ring or a disc or a sphere, a shell, whatever it is, line charge or a sheet, charge is there on the body at rest position, isn't it? Charge is not in motion. So we have dealt with effects and phenomena produced by charges which are at rest position. So that's why the name electrostatics was given to that. Okay. In this chapter, we'll try to study effects and phenomena shown by charges which are in motion. Charges which are in motion. How a charge can be set into motion? When this Van de Graaff generator topic was discussed with you, I told you you need potential difference. You have to apply electric field, then only you can set a charge into motion, isn't it? So here we do the same thing to set charge into motion. Okay, in this current electricity chapter. Okay. So I hope you have got an idea. We are about to deal with current. We are about to deal with flow of charge in a conductor, isn't it? If I ask you a question about what electric current is or what current means, in your high school also you were already informed about few basics related to current. Immediately we will say that rate of flow of charge is called as current. Okay, most of the people will give the same answer. You need to be very precise when you give certain definitions, because flow of charge, if I wanted to call flow of charge as what a current, let us say I will take a metal surface. What is a metal surface? It's a good conductor. Usually metals, all metals are good conductors. They are good conductors because plenty of free electrons are available. Free electrons in the sense valence electrons. Why do we call valence electrons as free electrons? Because they are loosely held by the nucleus. They are not so strongly held by the nucleus as when compared to electrons which are very close to the nucleus, like inner shell electrons. They are bounded to the nucleus very strongly, whereas outer shell electrons are loosely held. Such a kind of electrons are called as valence electrons or free electrons. Valence electrons in the sense outermost electrons, but those electrons we call them as free electrons. Such kind of plenty of free electrons are available in metals, and all those free electrons will be moving randomly. All are moving randomly here and there. They will be in motion continuously. So charge is there in in metal surfaces in moving. They are moving. They are in motion. Okay. Some constant number was also identified in metal surfaces. Approximately some 10 power 29 electrons will be available for meter cube volume. Okay, so it's a big number. It's really a big number. How much is the number? Number density of electrons nearly 10 power 29. It's not minus, it's 10 power 29 per meter cube. Such a huge number of electrons are available in metal surfaces, in metals, in conductors. Okay, and they are in motion. If I touch that, do I get any electrical shock? Of course not, because there is no any net flow. Net flow in the sense what? See, if you take a conductor, one electron is moving from left to right, and simultaneously another electron is moving from right to left. Now tell me, what is the net flow? Net flow is 0. But here motion of charge is there. One is moving towards right, the other one is moving towards left. So net flow will be 0. So what is the net effect? 0. So when you give the definition of electric current, you have to use this word net flow. The rate of net flow of charge is called as current or electric current. That's how you can call. Okay, so let us try to understand this a little bit more. I'll start with this one, electric current. It's denoted with I. It can be written as like this. Let us say, I will describe the situation. Delta Q charge. I'll take small q only, because frequently I will be using small q. Let us say delta Q charge has flown through a conductor, through a cross-sectional area in a time T2 T plus delta T. Therefore, the current I can be defined as delta Q by delta T. This is how you can define. In fact, it can be precisely modified like this also. I'll take a limit to this one, limit delta T tending to 0, because this delta Q, may vary. If you consider a particular cross section in a conductor, the charge flowing through that cross section may vary with the time. But if delta T is tending to 0, the flow can be treated as a steady flow over a short interval of time, or at a particular instant. You can treat as if the flow of charge is constant. Okay, so if that is the case, this expression will be written as dq by dt, and this is what we call it as instantaneous current, like that also you can call. Or in general, if q charge moved from one end to another in a conductor, then let us define time as well. In a conductor, over a time t, this I can be written as q by t. It's like total charge that has flown through the conductor divided by total time taken. It is, you can also call this as average current. You can also call this as average current. This can be called as instantaneous current. Okay, so this is what you should recollect immediately when you think about electric current. The net rate of flow of charge through the conductor is called as electric current. Okay, so let us talk about little more fundamental information connected with electric current. Its units. Its units are amperes. Its units are amperes, or simply you can write it as A. Or since you are taking ratio between charge and time, it can also be expressed as coulomb per second. Coulomb per second, like that also you can express. And what kind of quantity is this? It's a scalar quantity. It's a scalar quantity. All of you know why this is a scalar quantity. Whenever we define quantities, whenever we categorize quantities as scalar quantities and vector quantities in first year, the very important example we quote is electrical current. Electric current. Electric current is something that has both direction as well as magnitude, but it doesn't obey laws of vector addition. That's the reason why we put this under the category of scalars. It's a scalar quantity. Okay, so these details you should remember in connection with this electric current. Okay, let us proceed with the applications of electric current. Okay, applications. Applications of electric current. These applications are very important. Let us see what kind of applications we can focus on. Let over a time T1 to T2, current has passed through a conductor. What was said? From time T1 to T2, some current has passed through the conductor. Then, if I wanted to find out how much charge actually transported through the conductor, I can do that. Since I is equal to dq by dt, I can shuffle this and I can write it as dq is equal to I dt. Integrating on both sides, you can write this as q is equal to integral dq is q. Here on the RHS side, you will have integral dt. And what are the limits? T1 to T2. T1 to T2. So this particular equation gives us the total amount of charge that that was transported through the conductor from a time t1 seconds to t2 seconds. This is one application. There are questions based on this formula, okay, based on this this equation. Let us consider one more application. Let a charged particle, I'll consider n number of charged particles, okay. Let n number of charged particles each of charge q has passed through a conductor over a time t. So this is the situation. So there are charged particles are there. Each particle is having a charge equal to q. How many such kind of particles are there? N particles are there, and all those particles are they have passed through a conductor over a time equal to t. So corresponding to this situation, if you wanted to write the average value of the current, how it can be written? Therefore, average value of current is equal to, how it can be written? Total charge is nq divided by total time taken. That's how you can write nq by t, isn't it? I'll describe one more situation. This is compared to these things. This one is little important. Let a charge q is revolving in a circular path. Circular path as shown below. Let us imagine a circular path like this. Let radius of the circular path is r, and what is going on here? In the circular path, a charge q is revolving. Okay, in what sense it is revolving? It is revolving in anti-clockwise sense. Children, remember, anti-clockwise, clockwise, it depends on point of observation. If I am looking at this circular path from the top, I see it as anti-clockwise. If I observe from the bottom, I see it as clockwise. So let us say we are looking at this circular path from the top. This charge is moving in anti-clockwise direction. Let us say it is moving with a linear speed equal to v. Okay, linear velocity v. Now, I wanted to find out the current associated with this flow. Yes, you can talk about current associated with this charge motion in circular path, because charge is there and it is moving in the path, in the circular path, right? So there is a net flow of charge in the circular path, isn't it? Let us say if you wanted to write the equation, how it can be written? Current I is equal to, how much is the charge revolving in the circular path? Q is the charge revolving in the circular path. To complete one circular path, how much time it takes? It takes a time equal to time period. What is time period? Time taken for completing one circular path is called as time period. And how this time period can be expressed? Time period can be expressed as total circumference length 2 pi r divided by velocity. This is how you can express time period, right? Velocity is equal to circumference divided by time. Time is equal to circumference divided by velocity. Now, you can replace this t with 2 pi r by v. Therefore, what this current I will be, I is equal to qv by 2 pi r. That's how you can write. So this equation is also important. You will see problems connected with this equation and this equation. Okay, and this is quite simple. All of you, I guess all of you are aware of integration. Simply you need to remember integral x power n dx equation, very fundamental equation. It can be expressed as x power n plus 1 by n plus 1. Okay, and this is another kind of equation. Remember, children, don't think that here there is no any conductor, so there won't be any current. Charge is in motion. Charge is in motion. We have questions where we will be asked about to deal with a situation where an electron will be revolving in a circular path, and you have to find out how much is the current associated with that motion. Velocity, everything will be given to us. Radius will be given to us. So we can find out current associated with the flow of charge with the electron is equal to, if it is electron, you can replace q with e. E is equal to how much? 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. So EV by 2 pi r. Like that you can handle current associated with charge revolving in circular path. There is one more application, fourth application. Let in a conductor from left to right, N1 protons are moving. How many protons are moving? N1. Simultaneously at the same time or during the same interval of time, from right to left, N1 electrons were moving. Okay. From left to right, how many protons? N1, and from right to left, N2. From right to left, N2. What is the total current associated with this one? The current associated with this one can be expressed as, remember children, current direction. The conventional direction of current is taken in a direction opposite to electron flow. If you apply electric field, see, if you wanted to set a charge flow inside a conductor, what you have to do? You have to put it in electric field, or you have to provide some potential difference. We know this. For example, if you take two rods which are maintained at different potentials, it means potential difference is there, and they are not connected physically. Both are conducting rods only. Both are maintained at different potentials. The charge flow doesn't occur on its own, because in between these two rods, air is there. Air is a bad conductor, isn't it? So there won't be any flow. If you connect these two conductors with a metallic wire, what happens? There will be flow of charge from high potential rod to low potential rod, and this flow continues as long as the potential difference exists. If finally if potentials of both the rods are same, then the flow ceases. It doesn't exist anymore, isn't it? So all that you need to know is, if you wanted to set charged particle into motion, you need to apply potential difference. Okay. For example, if you take a circuit diagram, something like this, let us say one conductor is taken here, one battery is connected here. Okay, this is positive terminal of the battery, this is negative terminal of the battery. How do we take direction of the current? This is how we take, if there is a current I. But in fact, inside the conductor, electron moves in this direction, like opposite to I, isn't it? Because here this is positive terminal of the conductor, and this is negative terminal of the conductor, right? So electric field will be in this direction. When electric field is in this direction, electron, negatively charged particle, it experiences force opposite to the direction of electric field intensity, isn't it? So I want you to remember this fact. Conventional direction of current is taken in a direction opposite to the flow of charge. Always it is taken from positive terminal to negative terminal. So now here, look at this picture. N2 number of electrons are moving from right to left. They are moving from right to left. And N1 protons are moving from left to right. Now tell me, what is the total current here? Total current is equal to total charge divided by time. So here, how much is the total charge flow is there? How much total charge flow is there? N1 plus N2 into E divided by what? Time taken. I have taken plus because N2 electrons are moving towards left side only, but conventional direction of current corresponding to these N2 electrons flow will be taken along the direction of N1 protons motion. So it's like N1 plus N2 into E. Protons charge is also 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 only. So you will have total charge divided by time. What if from left to right also electrons are flowing? For example, here protons are not flowing, electrons are flowing. Now see, negatively charged particle, electrons are moving from left to right, and few electrons are moving from right to left. Then you have to consider net flow. You have to take the difference. If N1 number is greater than N2, then the total charge flow will be N1 minus N2. If N2 is greater than N1, then total charge flow will be N2 minus N1 by time taken into charge E. Okay, so that's how you have to deal with the applications. Okay, students, now let us deal with further discussion. There are few parameters associated with the flow of charge in a conductor. Like we talk about velocity of a flow, which is called as drift velocity. We talk about current density. We talk about mobility. Like that, few physical quantities are there. We'll try to deal with with all these physical quantities one by one. I'll start with the drift velocity. Okay. See, just now I told you some time before, whenever you take a conductor, a metal, whatever it is, okay, plenty of free electrons are available, and their density was also given. How much was the density I quoted earlier? 10 power 29 electrons per meter cube, per meter cube. Okay, and you know, at room temperature, all these electrons, they will be moving randomly. They will be moving randomly. How much is the density? Number density of electrons is equal to number density of electrons is equal to 10 power 29, approximately 10 power 29 per meter cube. Okay, so you can imagine how huge that number is, really very large, and all those electrons will be moving randomly. If they are moving randomly, they will have some velocity, right? Why do they move randomly? They move randomly because of several factors. One of the factors is temperature. Even at room temperature also, in metal surfaces, all the electrons, valence electrons will be randomly moving in the neighborhood of parent atom. They will be moving randomly. So with what velocity approximately they might be moving at room temperature? Do you know? Approximately 10 power 5 meter per second. Even that is also not small number. It's a big, it's a huge velocity. If that is the situation, you can think, the net flow, if at all, if you do not supply any electric field from outside, if you do not create any potential difference across the ends of the conductor, you cannot make sure that there will be a net charge in a particular direction. Okay, so to make sure that there will be a net flow, what you have to do? You have to supply sufficient potential difference, or you have to create a potential difference, or you have to apply some electric field. Okay, so once the electric field was created, what happens? So suddenly there will be a drift. All the electrons, they try to move in a particular direction, but they cannot move just like that. They have to move between the atoms. Material will have a lot of atoms inside it, right? So they have to move through the atoms, not through the atoms, in between the atoms. When they move in between the atoms, there will be frequent collisions with the atoms. So it's not so easy for electron, though it is being supported from outside by some external electric field. So what happens, if you take a conductor, something like this, let us say there is an electron here, and the electric field is applied in this direction, like this particular end of the conductor is connected to positive terminal of the battery, and this is connected to negative terminal of the battery. If there is an electron here, its motion can be something like this. Something like this, like this, like this. So here it has suffered a collision, it has come back here, it has suffered again one more collision here, it has gone ahead and suffered one more collision like this. It has suffering collisions, several collisions, and finally, see, initially it was here, and finally it was somewhere here. And all this is possible because of this applied electric field, because of this, whatever potential difference you have created across the ends of the conductor. What is happening? The electron, though it is taking a zigzag path, but there is a net motion from here to here. There is a net flow. Okay, so that's what it is possible. So if this is moving, you can talk about several parameters connected with this one. One of the very important parameters is drift velocity. Drift velocity is nothing but average velocity possessed by the electron when it is flowing inside a conductor. Okay, so let us try to find out what that drift velocity is. So now let us discuss about drift velocity. It is denoted with V subscript d, V bar subscript d. So what is the drift velocity? So when you take a conductor, and if you connect it to a battery, what happens? The electric field will be created, or a potential difference will be created across the ends of the conductor. So because of that, whatever charge carriers are present inside the conductor, they experience a sudden drift. They move in a particular direction, isn't it? So we'll try to find out what the drift velocity is. See, I told you conductor contains several electrons, plenty of electrons. Okay, number density is too high, 10 power 29 per meter cube. So if such a huge number of electrons are present inside, and all will undergo drift at a time, isn't it? So obviously all electrons do not possess same drift velocity, because they suffer collisions with the atomic sites, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to find out average value of drift velocities. When you apply electric field, what happens? All will experience a particular velocity, isn't it? I'll take average of all those things, and I'll call that as drift velocity. I'll call that as drift velocity. Okay. Most of the times, whenever we deal with random motion, we have to go for average values only. Then only we'll be able to make sure that the data is very close to the actual facts. Okay. So I'll consider a conductor something like this. Okay, let us say it is connected to a battery. Okay, current will flow in this direction. Let us say there is a current I. Okay, of course we don't need this parameter in the present derivation. Let us say electron, it's here and it is moving opposite to what? Electric field, applied electric field. So if I wanted to know about force experienced by this electron, it can be written like this, right? Minus E into E bar, isn't it? F equal to EQ. Okay, and if it is experiencing a net force, I can talk about acceleration experienced by the electron. How much this acceleration will be? Acceleration is equal to what? Force divided by mass. F bar by mass of the electron. F bar is what? Minus E bar by m. Let us take this equation as equation number 1. We'll take it as equation number 1. See, when electrons, whatever free electrons are present inside the conductor, when you consider those electrons, because of thermal energy also they possess velocity. They are moving randomly because thermal energy is being provided to them, isn't it? I'll assume that they were having, let U1 bar, U2 bar, U3 bar and so on, Un bar are thermal velocities possessed by electrons. How many electrons I have taken? N number of electrons I have taken. Therefore, average thermal velocity, it can be expressed as U1 bar plus U2 bar plus U3 bar plus so on Un bar divided by 10. And how much this is? This is obviously 0 because they are moving randomly. I did not supply any external support. I did not connect any battery to the conductor. That was the situation I am talking about here. Okay. Of course, here I have connected. If this is disconnected and if I monitor the situation inside the conductor, this is what I am going to see. Net flow is 0. So net velocity is 0, isn't it? So let me proceed this one. I'll use this data further. I have applied electric field to the conductor. Now what happens? It is all the electrons are experiencing some net force and they will move in a particular direction. There will be a net flow. Let the velocity, I'll talk about velocity of a particular electron, velocity of electron after the field is applied be, I'll assume this as V1 bar. I will take it as V1 bar is equal to what? Already that electron was having a velocity equal to U1 bar because of thermal energy. Okay. And what was the extra velocity provided by this applied field? It can be expressed as A bar into tau 1. I will tell you what this tau 1 is. Tau 1 is time taken or you can call this as time between a collision and a previous or simply you can call this as time between two successive collisions, two successive collisions. Similarly, the other electrons too possess velocities, right? Similarly, V2 bar is equal to U2 bar plus A bar tau 2. V3 bar is equal to U3 bar plus A bar into tau 3 and so on. Vn bar is equal to un bar plus a bar into tau n. That's how you can write. Now what is drift velocity? It's the average of all these velocities. Average of all these velocities. Therefore, Vd bar is equal to V1 bar plus V2 bar plus so on Vn bar divided by n. When you replace V1, V2, Vn with all these equations, you know what you will have? You will have U1 bar plus U2 bar plus U3 bar plus so on Un bar divided by n. U1 bar plus U2 bar plus so on Un bar divided by n plus, here a is there in all the terms, a bar, a bar, a bar, a bar. You can take it out, and what you are left with, tau 1, tau 2, tau 3, tau n. So a bar, tau 1 plus tau 2 plus so on tau n divided by n. This is how much? We have already made a conclusion. The net value, average value of thermal velocities will be equal to how much? 0 plus a bar into, what is this? This is average of times taken between two consecutive collisions. This is what? Time taken between two consecutive collisions. And this is time taken between two consecutive collisions for another electron. Like that, we have taken average of all those times. Then what it gives? It gives time taken between, average time taken between two consecutive collisions. So you can call this tau as average time taken between two consecutive collisions. So finally, Vd bar comes out to be as a bar into tau, and a bar value is there already. We have derived this. Replace it here. So what you will get, Vd bar is equal to minus E bar by m into tau. This is the expression for drift velocity. And look at this equation, this negative sign. It indicates that drift velocity is opposite to electric field intensity. You see the picture? Electron is moving towards left and E bar is towards right. We know that if a field is, electron experiences force in a direction opposite to the electric field. It's a negatively charged particle, no? Isn't it? So that's what it indicates. So this is about drift velocity, and there is connected discussion with this drift velocity, and we'll continue in the next session. Thank you, students.